he tempted fate with his outrageous statements.
I said, you know, I can earn it faster than I can piss it away. You should never do that.
He earned and spent a fortune.
I thought that it was great fun to have houses. Woodside, Aspen, Georgetown, and Paris.
And stirred controversy along the way.
It was really one of the first pornographic games I ever saw.
His ideas were ahead of their time.
My question was, why do you want a robot to go get a beer out of the refrigerator?
And he was banned from the business he loved.
I had no idea that I'd ever want to leave Atari. It just wasn't on my radar screen.
But Nolan Bushnell is best known for creating a game that launched an industry.
I wanted the ping pong game. I wanted to go.
He grew up a Mormon in Utah, and he had 3 sisters, so he was the only boy.
The only boy faces a painful loss at a very young age. His dad, who runs a construction company, dies suddenly, leaving Nolan fatherless.
My dad and I were very close, and then I kind of felt cheated.
He was kind of launched into the position of being kind of the breadwinner and the responsible one.
He didn't grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth. You just know that this is a guy whose own energy got him where he is.
He works at an amusement park while earning an electrical engineering degree from the University of Utah.
I was manager of the games department at 19 years old. I knew the economics of game business. I've always felt that my work at the amusement park was my MBA.
As technology advances, so does the curious young visionary.
Somebody programmed a game called Space War, and that was out of MIT. And the software was brought over to the University of Utah, and that was the first video game. And people say, gee, Nolan, you invented the video game. And I said, no, I didn't. Russell did from MIT.
So Nolan Bushnell graduates and heads out west, where the magic is happening.
I could hardly wait to get out of Utah. And if you're going to be an electrical engineer, and it's the late 60s, early 70s, you're going to be in Silicon Valley, in the center of the action.
It's 1970, and he's working double duty. Engineer by day, video game creator by night.
Computer Space was the first game, and what I was trying to do was really bring Space War to a cost point.
Computer Space was a monumental flop. It didn't make it to very many venues, and where it did make it, it wasn't very popular.
All my friends loved it. All my friends were engineers. It was a little bit too erudite for the masses.
With the aid of Al Alcorn, another young engineer, Bushnell sets out to make his second game, a game that sneaks its way into history.
So I told him I wanted the paddle game. I wanted a ping pong. I wanted to go. And the ball would go back and forth. But I had actually defined it so that there was a button. So you'd position it, and then the button would swing a little racket. Well, Al got it to the point where it just had the 2 paddles, and it was knocking the ball back and forth, and it was so much fun. I said, stop. We don't need to go to the next step. And so we did, and the rest is history.
The rules for playing were quite simple.
Insert quarter, ball will serve automatically. Avoid missing ball for high score. We named Pong just because you couldn't own a ping pong game, and so we just truncated it and called it Pong.
It's time to debut the game, and Pong is placed in a Sunnyvale, California bar for testing.
When they called 3 days or 2 days after we put it in, there was a failure. We thought, we maybe got a problem here.
There was too many quarters in it, so it actually jammed and it shorted the machine.
And that's a problem we can fix.
In November 1972, the fledgling Atari company ships its first commercial version of Pong. Shortly after, original partner Ted Dabney leaves the company.
We also had no money, and we were making factories out of, old roller skating rinks and various things. So, but we were scramblers.
They were also frisky young things.
They'd have their goals to shoot for, and then when they'd reach them, they'd have huge parties.
Almost everybody went home with everybody else.
It was a loose atmosphere. I think that Nolan ran it more like a hippie commune than it probably should have been.
And everything was consensual and everything. So, but it was a really, really different time.
But the flip side was it was a very creative environment, and a lot of good and interesting product came out of that environment.
In 1973, sales at Atari reached $3.2 million. While they awaited patent approval for Pong, others seized the opportunity.
We were heavily, heavily copied. It was a very successful game, but there was TV Tennis, Winter, all the big Chicago factories came out with a version.
Another innovative game from Bushnell raises lots of eyebrows, but very little money. It's called Gotcha.
It was really one of the first pornographic games I ever saw.
Everyone was talking about the phallic nature of joysticks. And so we thought, well, maybe it would be good to have
Two big pink rubber controllers on the face of the game.
in which you were manipulating breasts.
Some people went for it, some people didn't. Nolan was creative, there's no question about it.
Meanwhile, nearly 100,000 Pong-like arcade games are produced, yet Atari sells only 10,000 units. Nolan continues focusing on a series of other arcade games, but profits plunge as Bushnell pins his hopes on a home version of Pong.
Consumer Pong. Everyone says, well, you know, it was, boy, what a great idea, da-da-da. We took it to the toy show in New York, and we sold none. Zero. So we went to the TV appliance stores. We sold none. Zero. And so you say, what am I going to do?
By 1975, Atari, the precarious video game company founded by Nolan Bushnell, has experienced failure and incredible success, including the much-copied Pong. But Atari's eyes are on the future, and their next venture is to bring Pong into our living rooms. But video game companies slam their doors on Nolan and his idea.
Everybody just, they didn't get it. They didn't like the sound of it.
The head of sales at that time heard that Sears had put a consumer pinball machine in the sporting goods department. And so he called up the head buyer from the sporting goods department at Sears, and he was on our doorstep the next day.
Sears wants 100,000 home Atari games for its 1975 Christmas season. Atari sales rocket to nearly $40 million. At last, Nolan Bushnell experiences financial freedom. Well, maybe not.
A growing company actually consumes cash. You can very seldom throw off cash fast enough to grow as fast as you want to. So it was either take the company public or sell it to somebody with really deep pockets.
Those pockets belong to Warner Communications. In October 1976, Bushnell sells Atari to the communications giant and personally nets a reported $15 million from the $28 million sales price. After years of struggle, Nolan and his family become the poster family for lifestyles of the rich and famous.
I said, you know, I can earn it faster than I can piss it away. You should never do that.
He enjoyed his toys, there was no question about it.
And Nolan's toy box includes 2 private planes.
Taking planes to go have lunch.
I remember arriving at a place and the door opening and diapers falling out.
Sailing all over the place.
I had a house in Woodside, house in Aspen.
It always sounded more, I think, more glamorous than it actually was.
Had a house in Georgetown, and I had a house in Paris.
Nolan was a guy that wanted to play with his money He wasn't a guy that was interested in making more money.
The house in Paris was a simple little 15,000 square foot place in the park right next to the Eiffel Tower. Damn, it was fun. It was just fun.
For Nolan Bushnell, the merger may have cost him his voice.
Of course, after the sale, your bubbles get popped one by one by one by one, and a lot of your pet projects get killed because they don't see the future.
Atari continues to dominate the arcade business with popular titles that include Breakout and Night Driver. Yet there are now more than 70 versions of the Pong home game. But Bushnell has an idea, and it's called the 2600.
In the home game business, we thought of a single game, and Nolan said, no, this is a business that we have to be able to treat it like a record player and put new records in.
Demand for the new console is weak, and Bushnell's unhappiness reaches a peak in November 1978.